Hi, welcome to this second part in some Lightroom tutorials. Last time we looked at working with a white backdrop within Lightroom. So this time we've kind of taken a couple of shots with a black backdrop, and we're going to look at those in Lightroom and just kind of go through the same sort of workflow to see how we deal with those. It's a similar kind of principle, really. If we just open up Lightroom now, we have a shot here which is taken of Kate again. I have to say thank you to Kate for actually sort of willing. She was very willing to pose for us for these, which is pretty good considering. But if I just click reset here, this is actually the original photograph, which looks actually quite nice straight out of the box. But the main thing you're looking to do with a black background rather than white, of course, is make it as dark as possible rather than light as possible, because you're not sort of with a green screen and with a grey background with other colours and things like that. You still want to show them, but with the good thing with black and white, of course, is it doesn't really matter how creased they are, because you're looking to get them to a point where you can sort of key them out entirely, just get rid of them entirely by making the blacks black or the whites white. And that's exactly what we're looking to do here. So with this particular shot, I mean, this is a really easy one actually, so we won't use this solely as an example. We'll do something a little bit more difficult than this in a second. But if we just sort of highlight these two areas here again, as we did last time to show the black and white clipping, you can start to see that some of this area here, down the bottom right hand side of the shot and at the top left hand side of the shot, is already actually quite dark. So we've got Kate lit fairly well. Kate was stood about a metre and a half in front of the background. As you can see from the information on Lightroom here, it was shot with a 50mm at f2.8. So from metre and a half, I was probably about a metre away from Kate. So there was some pretty shallow depth of field there, and so the background was totally out of focus, but still would have shown through. So the first thing we can do is just pull the blacks down and just see what that does. And as you can see, I mean, the results from just doing that straight away are actually pretty good. You don't actually need to do much more than that with this shot, because it's lit so nicely that you have a well exposed shot. You've got a little sheen here from a side light, which was just a hair light in the shot, and possibly you could bring a little bit more out of the shadows to light this top section of hair here. So if we just push the shadows up a bit like that, just sort of lights up our hair a little bit more, and then we've drop the blacks. Then if we take them to about there, and then just do the standard as we did last time with the gradient filter. Graduated filter, as it's called here. You just sort of add one there, and then maybe do an adjustment brush for the last bits. Let's reduce the size of that. And, we turn the clipping off now. That's good enough. To me, that looks absolutely fine. You can change that to black and white. You can add some sort of random filter onto that, and it still looks absolutely great. Let's put some really nice black and white filter on it. Looks fantastic. But it's not always quite that simple. So if we go to a slightly more difficult shot, something like I'm just trying to think which one was a little bit more tricky. Yeah, we had this one. This actually looks quite easy, but it wasn't so easy. So if you click reset there, you look at the original, you've got the leg here has disappeared entirely from the black because it's so hidden. You've got this kind of the bulge of the of Kate's pregnancy, and it looks kind of like she stood on one leg. So we just undo that again. We had to sort of force out just this section of the picture because otherwise it looks odd. So you compare the two. So how do we do that? Well, again, with the same sort of processes as before, we had a look initially at how much of the blacks were black. Well, actually, probably best first of all to just say, well, are we happy with the exposure? And if not, push up the exposure. So, I mean, obviously that's too much. In fact, to be honest, fairly happy like that. And then what about the whites? So you can push up the whites and then they all start to clip. So bring them back. And yeah, the whites are pretty good on this shot. So the actual shot of Kate, as it stands, is fairly good. But what we want is the stuff out of the shadows there. But if we push up the shadows too much, all we can see here is this really, really messy black unironed background. And we don't want that at all. So kind of keep those shadows down. Maybe push them up just a touch. And then bring the blacks down, because the blacks aren't going to affect the shadows area too much. So start to bring the blacks down. And we notice that this section of the jeans here, because it's so dark, starts to go into the blacks, but this is unaffected, so this is okay. And if we just take it to where we'd like it to be, it'd be something like that. But at that point, we have a ton of Kate's hair missing into the black. I won't say anything about roots at that point. And minus 77 on blacks is just too much. I mean, we really want to be working with anything between minus 40 and 0, really. Nothing more than that, otherwise you're kind of, it's a bit too much. So if we say take it down to about here, and then say, right, what else can we do to correct that? So we can, again, go back to graduated filters and fill in some of the picture with those. Just to get rid of that background. I mean, technically, graduated filters, I suppose, are used more for skylines and things like that. But this is a perfect way to use them. And once you've done one like this, you can kind of say, right, okay, we started there, so let's start here on the next one, and then we can tighten that in even more like that. So, you can really get nice and close with these filters. You don't have to touch your image at all, but you can get really nice and close. Just be careful not to affect the actual parts of your image that you don't want to. So even there, just having done those, we've got a nice section around Kate that is pretty much black. So if we just drop the black a little bit more, then we see her kind of disappear. So let's push up the shadows just a touch more. Try and bring her hair out. And then we want to deal with this leg, because that's not good enough. We're gonna, if we drop this out, we've still got a stud there, and it just looks really odd because she's just got one leg. And that's a lighting problem, basically. We did have a hair light here, but we didn't have maybe enough reflection, or we were trying to, the key light was maybe a little bit too strong compared to the hair light, or the additional reflector here, and it's not perfect, but it did the job. So if we just zoom in, and what we can do, of course, is use the adjustment brush. And if we tap O again on the keyboard, first thing we can do is mask off our area. It's a little bit confusing, this, because it's actually not the easiest way to see it at all. But we'll do it like this, because I want to be able to see what I'm doing. So we've got a foot here and a leg. I'll just do it roughly for now. Okay, so you can see there's the edge of a G going up the side there. So we're going to mask off all this area here. I'm using a mouse here, actually, not a pen, so it's a bit awkward to do. Hopefully you'll be using a pen or a graphics tablet. It's a lot simpler. But if we just sort of shove this up here and then get to the top, reduce the brush size, and come around the finger here. And then just go in the rest, colour in the rest. And zoom out to fit. So we see we've got a leg here. So if we tap O again, gets rid of that, and then turn off the clipping and push up the shadows. So do we want to do shadows, exposure? It doesn't really matter, actually. Maybe a bit of exposure, and then the rest we can do in shadow. But obviously if you take it too far, it just looks silly, but just needs to be enough just to give it, so you can just see a line there rather than nothing. So you can tell that she actually has a leg there. Just to kind of tell your brain that there is a leg there. And I think that's probably good enough for that particular area. I think it looks pretty good. Got a bit of noise in there now, of course, because we're pushing the exposure and shadows up on an image, but still looks good from that sort of distance. And then of course we've got the standard adjustments to make, which we made in the last one. So sharpness, cleaning up the skin, which we're not going to do again in this one. We can clean up all these spots on the arm, which I would of course do for a studio type shot. The other thing I would say is, if you're dealing with an image that is so far away, if you're going to reduce it in size, then sharpness-wise, I tend to find that going for a smaller radius works nicely compared to a radius of 1. So if we mask off the background quite severely, so get rid of the background entirely, something like 46. That was so. As we said last time, clicking Alt, holding down Alt, and sliding the masking here lets you see how much the sharpening filter is actually being used. And take the radius down to 0.5, and then just push up the sharpness. And because it's 0.5, you can actually push it quite a lot higher than you would normally. So if you're kind of like me, I would never normally go above 50. If you're kind of 0.5, you can usually go to, get away with 80 easily. But it gives it a lot more sort of just deals with the fine detail. And you end up with what I think is a fairly nice looking image like this. And again, what I would do on that particular image, I would edit it as a smart object. And because this is black now, it's fantastic, because if I open this in Photoshop quickly, which will be full screen rather than in line with my video capture. Let's just because this is I just zoom out on this, because we know this is black, you can easily adjust your canvas size, and just say I want the height to be 6,000 pixels, just to give a little bit more at the top here, because it's maybe cut a little bit tight at the top, and then just fill in this top area with whichever method you want, really. Whether it be a brush, like so. There we go. And to me, that just looks a little bit more sort of even as far as the rule of thirds and stuff is concerned. It just looks a little bit nicer. But that's up to you. But of course, I would, as I said last time, I would sharpen the eyes. I would probably increase the saturation and exposure on the eyes slightly as well, and clean up the face. And yeah, that's probably about it. But other than that, I think that pretty much sorts out most of the issues you might have with a black background. So just get rid of it entirely. Other colours, grey, green, all those sort of things, different issue altogether. You've got to start ironing your stuff then. But with black and white, this is what you can do. So hope that's helpful.